The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Alaric, a 44-year-old architect in Seattle, had always prided myself on my ability to design structures that were both beautiful and strong, foundations that could withstand any pressure. But my own foundation, my marriage to Bronte, was crumbling before my eyes. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Bronte, a vibrant graphic designer, had always been meticulous about her appearance, but lately it was different. More calculated. New clothes I hadn't seen before, a different perfume, a secretive smile playing on her lips when she thought I wasn't looking. I dismissed it as stress from work, a new project perhaps. I trusted Bronte. We'd been together for 15 years, married for 12. We'd built a life together, a beautiful home overlooking Puget Sound, a comfortable routine. We were happy, or so I thought. The first real crack appeared when I noticed the late-night texts. Bronte would clutch her phone, her thumbs flying across the screen, a soft glow illuminating her face in the darkness. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd brush it off, just work, she'd say, her voice a little too high-pitched. But the messages kept coming night after night. I started to feel a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. One evening I came home early from a site visit. I walked into the kitchen, expecting to find Bronte working on her laptop, but she wasn't there. I heard her voice muffled coming from the living room. I paused, a prickle of apprehension running down my spine. "I miss you too," she was saying, her voice low and husky. "I can't wait to see you again." My blood turned to ice. I stood frozen, my hand gripping the doorframe, my heart pounding in my chest. Who was she talking to? I forced myself to move, to walk into the living room. Bronte was sitting on the couch, her back to me, her phone pressed to her ear. As I stepped into the room, she gasped and spun around, her eyes wide with panic. "Alaric, what are you doing here?" she stammered, her face flushed. I thought you were still at the site." "Who were you talking to?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. She hesitated, her eyes darting around the room. It was my sister, Isolde," she said, her voice trembling. "Shesh's having some problems." Isolde lived in London. They rarely spoke on the phone, preferring to video call, and Isolde never called at that time of night. "Let me talk to her," I said, reaching for the phone. Bronte recoiled, clutching the phone to her chest. "No, Shesh wouldn't want to talk to you right now. She's really upset." The lies were so clumsy, so obvious. I felt a surge of anger, hot and raw. "Bronte," I said, my voice shaking, "who were you really talking to?" She burst into tears, burying her face in her hands. It's complicated," she sobbed. "Just tell me the truth," I pleaded, my voice cracking. "Please." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with guilt and shame. It's someone from work," she whispered. "Someone from work," I repeated, my mind reeling. Who? She wouldn't meet my gaze. "His name is Caspian," she mumbled. "Caspian." The name was vaguely familiar. "Caspian who?" I pressed. "Caspian Vogel. Hesh is a client, a client." Bronte had been having an affair with a client. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "How long has this been going on?" Hesitated again, her lower lip trembling. "A few months," she admitted, her voice muffled. "A few months." My world tilted on its axis. A few months of lies, of deception, of betrayal. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I don't know what to say," she stammered, her eyes pleading. "Say something," I shouted, my voice raw with pain. "Tell me why. Tell me how you could do this to me." She started to cry again, her shoulders shaking. I don't know," she sobbed. I felt stuck, like we were in a rut. And Caspian made me feel alive again. Alive again. Was I not enough? Had I failed her somehow? I stared at her, my heart breaking into a million pieces. The woman I loved, the woman I'd built my life with, had betrayed me in the most profound way imaginable. I turned and walked out of the house, the rain lashing against my face, the tears streaming down my cheeks indistinguishable from the raindrops. I drove aimlessly, not knowing where I was going, not caring. I ended up at a bar, a dimly lit, smoky dive in the industrial district. I ordered a whiskey neat and downed it in one gulp. I ordered another and another. I sat there for hours, drowning my sorrows in alcohol, trying to numb the pain, the anger, the disbelief. The next few days were a blur. I moved into a hotel, unable to bear the thought of staying in the house we'd shared. I hired a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Isolde, ironically. She advised me to gather evidence, to document everything. I started going through Bronte's phone records, her emails, her social media accounts. The more I dug, the more I found. There were countless messages between Bronte and Caspian, filled with suggestive language, explicit details, and promises of secret rendezvous. There were photos of them together, laughing, holding hands, kissing. My stomach churned with each new discovery. I felt like I was invading her privacy, but I also felt like I deserved to know the truth, the full extent of her betrayal. I discovered that Bronte and Caspian had been planning a trip together, a romantic getaway to Mexico. They were supposed to leave in 2 weeks. I imagined them lying on the beach, sipping cocktails, basking in the sun while I was here, drowning in my own misery. The thought was unbearable. I decided I couldn't let them get away with it. I needed to confront them, to expose their lies, to make them pay for what they'd done. I contacted Caspian's wife, Myril. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Telling another woman that her husband is cheating is brutal, but Myril deserved to know. She was surprisingly calm, almost detached. She thanked me for telling her and said she'd been suspicious for a while. She asked me to send her all the evidence I had, which I did without hesitation. A few days later, I received a call from Myril. She said she'd confronted Caspian and he'd denied everything, but she'd shown him the photos and the messages. He'd finally confessed, begging her for forgiveness. Myril had kicked him out of the house and filed for divorce. I felt a small sense of satisfaction, knowing that Caspian was facing the consequences of his actions. But it didn't ease the pain in my heart. I still had to deal with Bronte. I arranged to meet her at our house. I wanted to do it in person, to look her in the eye and tell her that it was over. She arrived looking pale and drawn, her eyes red and puffy. "Alaric," she said, her voice trembling, "I am so sorry. I know I've hurt you. I don't know what I was thinking." "You were thinking with your hormones," I said coldly. "You were thinking about yourself, about your own selfish desires. You weren't thinking about me, about our marriage, about the vows we made." She started to cry again. "I know," she sobbed. "I've been so stupid. I've ruined everything." "Yes, you have," I said, my voice flat. "I'm filing for divorce, Bronte. I want you out of this house. I want you out of my life." She looked at me, her eyes filled with despair. "Please, Alaric," she pleaded. "Give me another chance. I promise it'll change. It'll do anything." "It's too late, Bronte," I said, shaking my head. "You broke my trust. You shattered my heart. I can never forgive you." She sank to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but I quickly suppressed it. She had made her choice, and she had to live with the consequences. I turned and walked away, leaving her kneeling on the floor, her tears soaking into the carpet. I never looked back. The divorce was finalized a few months later. Bronte moved out of the house and into a small apartment downtown. I heard through mutual friends that she was struggling, that she'd lost her job, that Caspian had dumped her for someone else. I didn't feel any satisfaction in her misery. I just felt empty. The house felt empty too. I sold it a few months later and moved to a smaller place in the suburbs. I needed a fresh start, a clean slate. It took me a long time to heal, to trust again, to believe in love. I went to therapy. I spent time with friends and family. I focused on my work. Slowly, gradually, the pain began to fade. I started to feel like myself again, like I could breathe again. One day I met someone. Her name was Genevieve. She was a landscape architect, intelligent, kind, and beautiful. We started dating and I found myself falling in love again. It was scary, letting myself be vulnerable again, but Genevieve was patient and understanding. She helped me to believe that not all women are like Bronte, that there are still good people in the world. A year later, Genevieve and I got married. It was a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by our closest friends and family. As I stood at the altar looking into Genevieve's eyes, I knew that I had finally found happiness again. I had survived the betrayal, the heartbreak, the pain. I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And I had learned a valuable lesson, that even when your world falls apart, you can always rebuild, stronger and better than before. Bronte's betrayal had left scars, but it had also made me appreciate the true meaning of love, trust, and commitment. And for that I was grateful. In a strange, twisted way. 5 years passed. Genevieve and I built a beautiful life together. We traveled the world, we renovated our house, we adopted a rescue dog. I was truly happy. One day I received a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of Bronte looking gaunt and unwell. She was standing outside a homeless shelter. The message read, "I thought you should know. She's lost everything." I stared at the photo, my heart aching with a mixture of pity and guilt. I knew I shouldn't care, that she deserved what she got, but I couldn't help feeling sorry for her. I showed the photo to Genevieve. She looked at it for a moment, then took my hand. "What do you want to do?" she asked. I thought for a long time. Then I made a decision. I contacted the homeless shelter and made a donation in Bronte's name. I didn't want to see her, to talk to her, to have any contact with her. But I couldn't bear the thought of her suffering alone and destitute. It was the least I could do, a small act of kindness to ease my conscience. I never heard from Bronte again. I don't know what happened to her, but I hope that she found some peace, some redemption, some way to rebuild her life, just as I had rebuilt mine. And I hope that she learned from her mistakes, that she understood the true cost of betrayal, the devastating impact it can have on the lives of those we love.